Isabella's eyes lingered long at the photo in the black frame. She sobbed softly, unable to suppress the intensity of her feelings. Her husband, Liam, perished in a tragic vehicle accident a half-year ago. On that fateful evening, he lost control of the automobile, crashed through the bridge supports at full speed, and plunged into the rushing river below. You are watching YouTube channel Daily Life Stories. Before proceeding to the rest of the story, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you won't miss another interesting future video story we upload. Getting back to the video, it was 3 days before the vehicle was located. The search was made much more difficult due to the high levels of current there. When Liam's wrecked Chevrolet was pulled from the water, there was no sign of the owner's body. Many experts on the search team had to cover more ground because of the widespread belief that the body was carried away by the river. For over a month, they tried to find Liam's remains. After searching the river bottom for many miles, in every direction from the scene of the accident, they came up empty-handed. Personal possessions, including the young businessman's bag and mobile phone, were located in the vehicle, proving beyond a reasonable doubt that he had perished in the crash. Isabella, mad with grief, felt it was all a nightmare. If she opened her eyes, everything would disappear. Their 6-year marriage was based on respect and love. Their kid Ethan was the envy of their friends and neighbors. The 6-year-old was smart for his age and was an avid reader. Isabella wept in the kitchen as she recalled happier times before the disaster, when everything went smoothly and their future was planned. To put it simply, Liam was a prosperous businessman. The man's net worth was 6 figures, instantly elevating him to the ranks of New York's elite. Following Liam's untimely demise, it was discovered that the funds had been withdrawn from his bank accounts shortly before the terrible incident. The young entrepreneur didn't simply sell out to his rivals. He also took out a high-interest loan from the bank. The fact that Isabella had no idea any of this was going on saddened her the most. She couldn't believe her husband had just bankrupted them along with their son. It's impossible that Liam would do anything like this. I don't understand why you cashed out and shut down the company. The poor widow moaned, "Why did you need to do this?" as she sobbed softly as not to wake her sleeping son. The actual trouble, however, didn't begin until a month later when Isabella got a phone call from the bank. She was informed that the loan payment deadline had passed and that she needed to make an urgent payment in order to postpone paying back the principal installment. The widow obviously didn't have that much cash on hand. That left her wondering where on earth to find it. Isabella's life has become pure misery because of the emotional agony, sentiments of animosity towards her spouse, and dread of the unknown that have all become wrapped up around her. Also, she was at a loss as to how to break the news to her little boy that his father had passed away and he wouldn't be returning from his business trip. Isabella's daily routine now includes answering loan-related phone calls and loan-related correspondence. The impoverished girl had to borrow money from her parents and sell her automobile to scrape together the minimum amount needed to make the payment. The single mother's strength and stamina in doing this with her child is unfathomable. Isabella subsequently left Ethan with another book while she shopped for dinner. When she returned 30 minutes later with groceries, the entire home was flipped, signaling a search was underway, but the worst was yet to come. Isabella's son's room was empty when she checked on him. "Where are you, son?" A quivering voice rang out as the young mother called, but she was met with nothing but quiet, broken only by the odd tick of the wall clock. The phone rang right then. Isabella hurriedly picked up the phone, stumbling over the various items that had been thrown around the room. The woman had no idea that someone on the other end of the telephone which sounds so smarmy. Isabella, this call might surprise you. Your husband owes me money. He hasn't contacted me in 3 years. I'm unused to financial losses. For now, I'll keep your son. The baritone said, of sure, till you pay me back the full money with interest. Isabella was stunned by the news. No, Liam has more debt, Isabella said. What have you gotten me into? She realized that her spouse had gotten loans from those who didn't respect human life. Isabella wouldn't talk to the evil people, so she needed another way in. She rushed to her local police station to report the incident. The on-call officer forwarded her to the organized crime officer, James. After hearing Isabella's jumbled story, the officer promised to help. Stephen was practically the only one in the division who thought her husband was still alive. No one listened to the young officer at the time, who had an overactive imagination. James designed a clandestine operation to apprehend the kidnappers and restore the boy to his mother unharmed. The gang members were taken into custody without delay, since they were wanted on multiple felony charges that carried potential life sentences. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed, and Isabella had cleared out her late husband's debts and began a new life. It was a tough situation, but the widow really had nowhere else to turn. Meanwhile, Officer James, who still works for the Department of Organized Crime, became good friends with Isabella. The two hit it off right away, and it was clear that their relationship had the potential to develop into something more at any time, giving them both reason to believe in love. Isabella eventually fulfilled Ethan's wish to go to the beach. With James' aid, she got encouraged to visit one of Miami's hotels. The son was too happy as he can finally take surf lessons. Isabella, her companion James, and son Ethan boarded a domestic flight to get there. When they arrived in Miami, they were met with sunshine and lovely beaches. Stephen, Isabella, and Ethan enjoyed the water bikes and scuba diving while there. The trip ended far too quickly, and it was time to return to New York. She slipped into her seat in economy class and relaxed, but she couldn't sleep. When Ethan touched her hand, the frightened kid had informed his mother he saw his dad with a woman in business class. "No way, baby. Did you see your dad? That's ridiculous, and you know it." However, Isabella's heart still skipped a nervous beat. The only person Ethan saw was his father. He insisted. Isabella was worried about her friend James, who was sitting in the row next to her, so she asked her kid to point out his dad. Ethan escorted her to the business class area, where she found Liam seated next to a tall, attractive woman. In the presence of his estranged wife and kid, the man's face became white. Then, holding his partner's hand, he kissed her. Liam pretended nothing was wrong. He tried, but eventually failed. "Liam, I can't understand. Maybe you forgot that your wife and child are still alive and healthy, despite the difficult time and the financial problems you've left them in," Isabella yelled with anger. Liam feigned to be astonished by Isabella's statements. James prevented him from doing so. "I'm calling my New York and Miami colleagues to arrest and question you," James told Liam. "I'm sure you'll be convicted of fraud and forgery." Hearing Stephen's words, Liam's face dropped. Liam realized his con had been exposed, and there was no use in continuing to act normally. Later, it became clear that Liam had faked his own death, so that he and his lover might escape to the South and start a new, happy life there. The cheating spouse takes out a loan to buy a beach house and pretends to be a successful businessman. In all that time, he was to New York multiple times, but didn't bother to check on his family. Nevertheless, Liam was completely unconcerned about the pain he brought to his family. Fortunately, with Ethan's alertness and the assistance of law enforcement, everything turned out okay. This cheating con artist was promptly exposed the moment they touched down in New York. He would have to pay time for his actions by serving time in federal state prison. Isabella, her son, and James went back to their hometown and started again. laying the groundwork for a family based on trust, honesty, and mutual respect.